All right. Hey, good morning. Brand new week, and looking forward to it. Looking forward to everything that's got going on. I'm probably in one of the busiest seasons that I've been in a while, and totally enjoying it. And so I'm getting ready to add some more busyness to it. Um, Probably in March, and so just excited about life. And this weekend I'm going out of town, going to see Harper Kate. We're heading to the beach, and so I'll be gone the weekend. Looking forward to that, just getting away. Rarely do I miss a Sunday. In fact, I never not teach on Sunday because of the situation where we're in right now. But I'll teach it Friday morning, and then I'll just hit play on Sunday and just enjoy my family and enjoy teaching truth. I get to just because technology, man, you can get to where you can do several things at one time, and so. That's where we are. Man, I hope you had a great weekend. Hope you cherish those. They come and go quickly, don't they? I mean, they're like bam, 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 and they're in and out. And so, it's easy to waste one, and I love to waste a good Saturday, or the habit. But I love more just really feeling like we've accomplished some things. And so for us, Thursday was good hanging out with my grandsons and my little girl and watching basketball. And then Friday was spent writing and then building, helping Jackson finish up his fireplace in his new house that he's been working on. And so we did that. Saturday was more writing. Saturday night, man, just dinner with some kids. I say kids, almost 40-year-old couples, and just had a great time, intimate conversation, just enjoying laughing, and man, it was good. It's rich. And then Sunday, man, yesterday church was packed, and we were doing First Sunday supper. So we teach the Word, we share Holy Communion, and then we have a meal together. And man, last night just Ham and I just kind of wind down, and I did a little more writing, and here we are. So enough of that. I love just chatting with you guys though, and seeing what's going on in your world as well. So man, feel free to reach out. So hey, we are in the Gospel of John, chapter 13, and we are in. It's the life of Judas. It's crazy when you think about. And so what I want to do is kind of break this thing down for us. Let's just walk through it. We're in John chapter 13. We're going to pick it up in verse 18. We're going back to that upper room where Jesus had prepared everything, right? He had secured the room. No doubt he had gotten the provisions there. Whatever needed to happen, he did. He didn't leave that to Judas, who was the treasurer, who normally would be the one that would go and make the payments. I think he did that because Judas didn't know where this thing was going to happen. Because had Judas known where it was going to happen, he had already made his decision. He was going to snitch, and he was going to secure where they could find Jesus. And so I think by design, Jesus had done all this by himself. And so he's got everything lined up. All the two disciples had to do was just go say, is the room ready? And they helped set the final details up. And so everything's prepared. 13 men in this upper room. It is, in some sense, the Holy of Holies at that point. It is the room of the high priest himself, Jesus, although they can't comprehend all of that. But all of the symbolism and all of the ritualism of Passover and what is taking place at the temple is actually happening right here in this upper room with 13 men. And so that's where we find ourselves. The Son of Man, the Messiah, the Good Shepherd, the Lamb of God, the Word made flesh, Jesus, is sitting with his 12 that he chose. Even one of them who was, as Jesus had said in John 6, the devil. And so this is where we find ourselves. In less than 20 hours, Jesus is going to be dead. In less than half of that, Judas is going to be dead. So it's a tale of two men, two deaths, vastly different lives and purposes. So let's pick it up. Verse 17. Jesus has just washed the disciples' feet, all of them, including Judas. And he says, or verse 16 rather, or 15, for I gave you an example that you also would do just as I did for you. He said, I went around, excuse me. He said, I went around, oh man. He said, I went around and washed all of your feet. And then he says this, I did this as an example to you. And I want you to understand something. Truly, truly, firmly I say this. Truly, truly, I say to you, a slave is not greater than his master, nor is the one who is sent greater than the one who sent him. If you know these things, if you understand that there's that your role is as a servant, humble leader, then I want you to do, you're blessed if you do what I just did to you. Not the physical aspect of washing feet, but the aspect of serving others, of regarding others in humble service. Regarding others is more important, and loving them fully. Jesus, this was not simply an act of symbolism. This is Jesus loving these 12 men who served him, even the one who betrayed him. And so he washes their feet. And it's an honor for Jesus to do that. And this is what he was born for. And this is what he came for. And so Jesus had 12 pairs of feet that he had gone around the room and washed. And he says, if you know these things, you're blessed if you do them. He said, but now I'm not speaking to all of you. This is where it gets somber, right? I am not speaking, verse 18, about all of you. I know the ones whom I've chosen. I know you guys. Man, can you imagine what is going on in Judas's heart, right? Is Jesus going, hey, I chose you guys. I know you. So not chosen in the sense of how you would think of election or whatever, not chose you. He meant, I am very intimately acquainted with all. After all, I chose you. Judas, I chose you, right? And so it's this just soothing confirmation that God is going, look, I'm intimate with all of you. And he says this, I am not speaking about all of you. I know the ones whom I've chosen, but this is happening. They don't know what he's about to say, but he's saying this is happening so that the scriptures may be fulfilled. He who eats my bread has lifted up his heel against me. Now, that passage comes from Psalm 41, and it's a psalm of David. And he's just crying out to the Lord because he's in trouble. Blessed is the one who considers the helpless. The Lord will save him on the day of trouble. The Lord will protect him. As for me, the Lord is gracious to me. And he goes through this and he speaks about the plot. All who hate me whisper against me. They plot my harm against me, saying a wicked thing is poured out upon him. So then when he lies down, he will not get up again. And he's just speaking about all these things. And he makes this statement, even my close friend in whom I trusted, who ate my bread, has lifted up his heel against me. Now, this is a double deal. He wrote this around the time in which Absalom was coming for him and was going to kill him, and he had no choice. He's sides are chosen, and Ahithophel, who was one of his counselors, sided with Absalom, and so he's like he talks about it in 2 Samuel 15. You can read about it. This betrayal that took place, and so this is what David is referring to, but Jesus says it's also a type and a foreshadowing of this very place right here. And so that's why he says, he who eats my bread, so that the scriptures may be fulfilled. And he quotes Psalm 41. From now on, I'm telling you before it happens, so that when it does happen, you may believe that I'm he. So listen, I just want you to understand, I don't miss a thing. Don't think that my death is coming as a surprise. And I'm going to tell you surprises you don't know about. There's someone here who's going to betray me, and I'm telling you in advance, that's going to happen. Now, Jesus knew they were going to be in the garden. Judas was going to come up with the soldiers, give Jesus a kiss, and then all the disciples are going to go, what just happened? And then they're going to realize he was a betrayer, and he sold them out. And Jesus is like, I'm going to tell you in advance, because I want you to understand this one principle. I want you to believe that I am he, the sovereign one, who knows these things. And he says, truly, truly, again, firmly hear me. Truly, truly, I say to you, the one who receives anyone I send receives me, and the one who receives me receives who was sent. Jesus is now saying, hey, don't let this be a shock to you. And I want you to understand, I'm sovereign, and the mission is still clear. I'm sending you into the world to humbly serve, love, and proclaim, and you got nothing to worry about. One of you is going to depart, but listen, everything stays the same. That's verse 20. Truly, truly, I say to you, the one who receives anyone I send receives me, and the one who receives me receives him who sent me. Now we come to the very act of this setting where Judas departs, and then we get on to what's going to happen at this point. is Jesus and his disciples are going to have a few hours of great intimacy where they're going to share the meal, they're going to sing a hymn, they're going to walk out into the garden. Jesus is going to be teaching them here and in the garden. Then he will pray, and then Judas will show back up. So this is where we're going, and we'll look at this, the next few days. When Jesus had said these things, then he becomes troubled in spirit. This is a deep troubling. This is the same troubling that he felt, same word, same usage, that he felt when he stood before the grave of Lazarus and realized that all these people were weeping and everybody's heart was broken and Lazarus is dead, because sin does that. The wages of sin is death. And so, but Jesus knows that he's going to fix it, but he's troubled in this, he's just, his whole spirit, because he's human in this sense, is just all in upheaval. And now as he surveys the 12 who sit in this U-shaped table, and you've got Judas on one side, and you've got John, the beloved, on the other, and you've got the disciples dotting around it. And they're all laying on their side, and they're all eating and partaking of the hors d'oeuvre, so to speak, if you will. And they've got some bread, and they've got a little paste that they'll be dipping that in. And Jesus is troubled in spirit. Now imagine they all kind of notice that he looks like something's going on. And it says this: when Jesus had said these things, look, this mission is clear. Judas is, somebody's going to betray me, and but it's scripture. It's fulfilled. I'm telling you this so that you'll know. It didn't catch me off guard. I'm just trying to prepare you for what's coming. But I want you to understand the mission is clear. You're going to be sent out. And those who receive you are going to receive me. Right? And so this is what's going on. Then he looks and he says this: he became troubled in spirit and testified. Now he's speaking. Truly, truly, I say to you that one of you will betray me. One of you will betray me. Now, that's an interesting word, betrayal. It really is. Only a friend can do that. Enemies can't betray you. Betrayal is unique. It is someone who is close to your side, someone who you have walked with, someone who you have considered, in a sense, a brother, a close companion, a partner, is going to stab you in the back. That's what's going on. Shakespeare wrote about it with Caesar and Brutus. When Caesar looks at him and says, "You too, Brutus, right? You're going to come against me too." Now, Caesar was shocked. Jesus isn't. But it's that word betrayal. So, hearing that word betrayal, now they're like, what? And so in verse 22 it says, the disciples began looking at one another, at a loss to know which one he was speaking about. So they're all like, a betrayer. And so they're looking. Listen, it's not like, it's Judas. I know it's Judas. You could tell. You could just, no, they didn't know. They're looking at, they've just been talking about who the greatest. Now they're looking at, okay, who's the one? Who is it? Right? So they've gone from who's the greatest to who's the dirtiest? Who is it? Who is it among us? And so it comes to verse 23. Lying back on Jesus' chest was one of his disciples whom Jesus loved. Now, somewhere along the line, Jesus must have said that or whatever, and John embraced it, and so John writes about it. And John's speaking of himself. So he's leaning back. Doesn't necessarily mean he's got his head on his chest in that sense. It just means he's leaning, in that way as they're eating. And so he's just leaned in. And so then Peter looks over at John and nods and ask him who it is, right? Verse 34, Simon Peter nodded to his disciple and said to him, tell us who it is whom he's speaking, right? He's saying, hey, John, who? So you can see these signals going over around the table, right? And then he says, he simply then leaned back on Jesus' chest. So anybody go, hey man, Jesus, who is it? Lord, who is it? Jesus then answered, the man is the one whom I shall dip this piece of bread and give it to him. So he dips the bread in that paste. He picks it up. He gives it to Judas, who must have been right there by him. The son of Simon from Kerioth. That's Simon Iscariot. Really means, Iscariot just kind of identifies where he's from, right? So it's Simon from Kerioth. After this, Satan entered into him. So he hands him the bread, and at that moment, Satan enters into Judas himself, filled with evil. Jesus looks at him and says, what you are doing do it quickly. Now, he just said, whoever I give this bread to. It's hard to comprehend everything going on, but I guess I got caught up in betrayal and missed that part of it. And so he dips the bread, he hands it to him, and he says, can you imagine just looking into Judas and Judas seeing that? And Jesus says, what you've chosen to do, Judas, do it quickly. Get on with it. You made your bed, just get after it. Now, for some, verse 29, or verse 28, none of those reclining at the table knew what purpose he had said to him. So they heard him talk. They wonder what he was telling him. For some were assuming, since Judas kept money box, that Jesus was saying to them, buy the things we need for the feast. Or else he was saying, give something to the poor. So after receiving the piece of bread, he left immediately, and it was night. So the Passover the dust is settled. They're now ready for the meal. Jesus already has it. They just can't figure out what's going on. By this, all people will know that you are my Therefore he had left. Jesus said, now the Son of Man will be glorified, and God is glorified in him. God is glorified in him. God will also glorify in himself and will glorify him immediately. And so we see what's going on here is just caught up in what's going on, and he's now moving to them. But before we get there, I just think it's important to kind of see what's taking place here when it says it was night and he left. So he's a snitch, right? I mean, this is what he's going to do. He's going to sell info for a price. The price of a slave, 30 pieces of silver. He's already worked the deal. He's just now knows where they're going. So somewhere in this conversation, he must know, hey, they're going out to get. It's got to be where they're going. So he goes and he tells them. He's still going to feel this dissatisfaction, right? He's going to toss the money, the scriptures will say. But he can't toss that guilt, right? I mean, it's there. It's on him now. And so he goes and he hangs himself. This is Judas. He's the son of perdition. He is the son of destruction. He made his decision. Two thoughts, and then I'm going to leave you. Satan is always active inside holy gatherings. He is. You go to church and you don't think Satan is active there? You gather with believers and then others, and you don't believe that Satan is plotting and tempting and undermining. This is who he is. He came to steal, kill, and to destroy. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, and every other way. That's his point. Never underestimate that. Now, we don't glorify that and spend a lot of time talking about Satan, but that's his role. His role is a disruptor in an evil way. Ever since the fall, ever since the garden, that's what he did. He got Adam and Eve, and then subsequently down through the lines, he created that. He even affected David in some sense, right? And so there is that. Hypocrisy is not always seen. But just understand that hypocrites are among us. That's the whole parable of the tares and the wheat. When they're growing side by side, Jesus telling a story, and they said, so you mean like good and evil is just like that? Well, should we rip out the bad guys? And Jesus like, man, you won't know that until the fruit begins to bloom. So no, let's leave them alone, and at harvest we'll know which is which. And so Jesus is basically saying, hey, that's for a later date. And so we know that they're among us. But here's the bottom line. Nothing that Satan does can thwart the purposes of God. Just can't. Don't become a victim, and don't blame all your mess on Satan. He can't thwart the purposes of God. He can create obstacles that the Holy One will use and weave together for your good. But that's the skinny lesson that I take away from this story. And we have now come down to now there are 11. Jesus makes 12. And we're going to spend the next several weeks just listening as Jesus begins to speak. Now that the leaven is gone, so to speak, the sin. Now that the betrayer, now that the hypocrite is gone, Jesus is going to turn himself inward to these guys, and he's going to begin to talk about holy things. We'll begin looking at that tomorrow. Lord bless you guys. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the morning.